This video is going to explain the names of the lines and spaces on the treble clef staff. A music staff is made up of 5 lines, which we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and the space in between we call the spaces, and as you can see there are 4. Up here, the letters that we see are the first 7 letters of the English alphabet. In music, we only use these 7 letters to name the notes, and they just get repeated over and over. On a music staff, notes that are lower on the staff sound lower, and notes that are written higher, as the notes are written higher, the sound of the note will go higher. Now, in the treble clef, a treble clef is an old-fashioned G, and sometimes it's called the G clef. And a treble clef starts down here and goes up, comes around, and actually circles this line right here, this second line here, and that line is actually G, and that's why we call it the G clef. To remember the names of the lines on the treble clef, some of you may remember in elementary school the saying, "Every good boy deserves fudge." And that's one way that we can use to name the lines on the staff. So basically the bottom line is actually the note E. The next line up is the note G. The next line up is the note B, then D, and then F. And as you can see, we have the letters E, G, B, D, F. Every good boy deserves fudge, or Ernie gave Bert dog food. Whatever way you want to remember is fine. But those are the names of the lines on the staff. For the spaces on the staff, it's a little easy to remember. We use the word face. So we're always labeling again from the bottom of the staff all the way to the top of the staff. And spell the word face. The first space would be F, then followed by A, then C, and then E. And as you can see, we spell the word face, and that's an easy way to remember the spaces. When we look at this picture, we see the names of the lines and the spaces put together. And the lines are in blue and the spaces are in red. It's also important to look and see that the letters will repeat themselves. So we have an E down here and we have an E up here. This top E right now that I'm circling would sound higher than the bottom E. And again, you can see an F down here and an F up here. When we see all of the letters together like this, it's also important to note that the music alphabet repeats itself. So when we have the letters, if I write the music alphabet up here, B, C, D, E, F, G, we only use these 7 letters, and after G would be A again. And it would just keep going and going. As we go higher up on the staff, this way, we go forward in the alphabet. And if we were to go lower on the staff, we go backwards in the alphabet. So that before A, if we wanted to know what note was lower than A, it would be a G. Let's go to another picture and add the notes above and below the staff. Okay, on this slide I've gone ahead and again written in the lines and spaces, and up at the top I've written in the letters that we use in music. And I've gone ahead and I've written them twice just to show you that this pattern of A, B, C, D, E, F, G just keeps repeating on and on. And if we are going higher in the music staff, then we just keep going forward in the alphabet. And if I got to here, then the next letter would be A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and it would go on and on. If we're going lower on the staff, then we just go backwards in the music alphabet. And you can sort of see that pattern here. If we look at the letter A, we're going forward as we go higher in the alphabet. But if I go down or lower, then it goes back to G and then F, E, and then it just goes backwards. So we're going to talk about what happens when we need to write notes that are higher or above the staff, or notes that are lower or below the staff. In order to write notes higher or lower than the staff, we sometimes need to add the lines because we only have 5 main lines on the staff. So when we go higher or lower, we need to add extra lines to indicate new notes. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just draw some lines. We call these lines ledger lines. I make them as straight as I can there with my finger. And then I'm going to also go below the staff. There we go. So if I wanted to go higher on the staff, if I want to go higher than this top line F, I would look at the alphabet and I would see that here's my F, and the next note that comes after F is G. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take that G, and that G is going to go right above the top line. Now we can also see that after G, there's no more G, so we have to go back, and we go back to A. So I'm going to go ahead, and we're going to keep going higher on the staff, just following the alphabet. So there's G. A is going to be on the line. Oops. B is going to be just above the line. And then C would be on this line. So as you can see, we just go up the alphabet. And if I go lower, so now that we're down here, the last line is E. So the letter that comes before E is going to be D. And I'm going to squeeze him in right there. And then before D is, oops, so you can get the C there. There it is. We've got the C. And then before C would be B. And then before B would be A. And we could just keep adding lines going on and on and on and on. And that's how we write letters above and below the staff. So the important thing to remember is that the music staff, the lines and spaces, simply follow the first 7 letters of the alphabet. So here we have our first A down here. So we go A to B, C, D, E, F, G, and then it just goes again back to A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, alternating lines and spaces. Okay, so why don't we do a little quiz here? First of all, let's take a look and see if we can name some of the notes that are the lines. So remember, our lines are every good boy deserves fudge from the bottom to the top. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw some notes here. All right, so now see if you can name those notes. I'm going to give you a few seconds and then we're going to just review it. Okay, so for the first note, you should have guessed G. For the next note, you should have guessed B. For the third note, you should guess E. For the fourth note, F. And for the final note is a D. All right, for this picture, we're going to see how well you remember the names of the spaces. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw the spaces on the staff here. And I'm going to give you a few seconds to try and remember the names of these spaces. You might want to pause the video if you need a little bit more time, but I'll give you about 5 seconds. All right, so just to review, for the first note, you should have guessed that one is an A. The second note's an F. The third note is an E, and the last note is a C. On this next picture, you'll see that I've gone ahead and I've written in some notes mixing up the lines and spaces. So why don't you take a few seconds and see if you can guess the names of these notes that I've written. Again, if you need a little more time, you might want to pause the video and give yourself some time. Okay, so if we review these 7 notes, the first note is going to be F, the next note is going to be a B, the next note is going to be a C, then E, D, A, and G. So hopefully you were able to catch most of those. And now, on the next slide, let's review some of the notes above and below the staff and see how that goes. Alright, so here we go. Let's try and name some of these notes above and below the staff. Again, I'll give you a few seconds to try and figure it out. Feel free to pause the video if you need a little more time. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've actually put in the bottom line E and the top line F just to help you out a little bit. So if we know this first line here, this bottom line is E, then this next note right here has to come before E because we're going down, we're going below the staff. So what letter comes before E in our musical alphabet? Well, the letter that comes before E is a D. And then if we're going to go even lower, what letter comes before D in the alphabet? C. And the letter that comes before C is a B. Alright, now we're going to do the opposite. So, again, I've given you the top name of the line here, which is F. So we need to know what note comes after F in the alphabet. Well, after F, of course, we have G. Then after G, we're at the end of our musical alphabet. So if we're at the end, we need to go all the way back to the beginning. So that would mean the next note is going to be A, followed by B. And there you have the 3 notes below and the 3 notes above the staff. Hopefully this has been helpful. Feel free to come back and review this video, any part of it that you wish as you need to, because it takes a while to get used to this.